Hey, a couple of people have asked me, what do you do for post when you're doing your time lapse work? And I thought, well, I've written it down a few times, and it's like 13 steps, and it's boring to read. And so I thought I'd just do a little video tutorial here and run through the process. And I'm not going to refer to anything. I'll just see if I can do this from memory, and we'll see how good that process is. But anyway, let's just start from the point of view that you have gone out and spent 3 hours someplace and come back with 900 files, and you're ready to process that time lapse. So the first thing I do is whatever medium you shot it on, with flash drive, what have you, copy that over into a folder, project folder. So in our case, our project folder is 092114. I just use a date, and then I put some kind of description on it. So I can use this to organize by. For every time-lapse project folder, I create three folders, one for processed, renders, and source. So like I said, first thing you do is copy those files from your media into your source folder. So this is everything that I shot, and they should all be in raw format. In my case, I shoot with a Nikon, so I'm getting .nef files. So that's source, and at the beginning of the project, you won't have anything. Let's switch views. There's nothing inside processed and nothing inside renders because you haven't done anything yet. So we'll get everything there. And the first thing we want to do is jump over to Bridge. And we're going to find that source file right here. Double click. And why Bridge? A couple of reasons. It is a great way to look at a whole bunch of files at the same time, which you will be doing. You might be out shooting in 3-4 time lapses, and so you need a way to look at all the images and understand when one stops and starts and the other begins, and be able to sort those things and put them all together. So here we're just looking at all the source files that take up that one shoot. It's not a long one. It's only like 5-6 seconds, I believe. But you can see as I scroll down, you'll see the time lapse starting to kind of come alive, but it's just because I'm previewing these. So there you have it. Now, another reason to use Bridge is you can open a whole lot of files at once without not actually opening them. And you'll see what I mean in just a moment. So we have our files in order. You see it's 0026 and 0027. So that's cool. So I'm just going to select one, do a Command A, select them all, and then just do File Open. And it'll ask you, do you want to open up however many files you've selected, in this case 135, and we're going to go, yeah, we do. But here's the cool part. Because they're raw files, and you said open, it opens the Adobe RAW filter in Photoshop before it actually opens the files. And this gives you a great opportunity to do color correction to all the images all at the same time and really manipulate it before you save. This is a huge batch of images. You can get it just the way you want. So here we are. I'm never really satisfied with the color that the sensors in my camera pick up. It's not the best camera in the world. It's like a Nikon D3100. So, good consumer model, and you can have a lot of fun with it. But it's, not quite there as far as just the sensitivity of the sensors in it. You can pay a lot more money, you get better sensors, but this is what I'm working with. So this is a great opportunity. Because of that, I can start to get back into the image what I was actually seeing, which attracted me to the spot in the first place. So this is looking a little flat and a little gray to me. So because it's a raw file, we've got an opportunity in the raw filter here to really start to work with all the details of the color inside and all that data that's inside the image. So we're looking at the very first image in the sequence, and over here we can start to adjust things. Everybody's got their own approach to it, and I alter mine depending on the image itself, but I typically bump up the clarity just a little bit, and that really makes the midtones pop. And it was a beautiful autumn morning, and there was a lot of gold out there. So I want to be careful. I don't want to oversaturate. Still want it to look realistic. So I tend to pump up the vibrance, but then desaturate just a little bit. And then if I take the blacks up, or actually the shadows, and then pull the black down so I can just see more detail in the dark areas. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because everybody does it their way. Just trying to get this image before I commit it to 135 files. I want to make sure they're all going to come out looking the way that I like. Now my whites are pretty blown out up there in the cloud, so I want to pull the highlights down. Maybe pull back on the whites just a little bit. Anyway, good enough for this tutorial. So it's looking pretty nice. If we look at this one, look at the next one, you can see the difference. Now I would like to take all those changes I made and apply them to all of the images in my sequence, and I can do that by coming up here and clicking Select All. You'll notice all of them got selected now, and now there's a button that says Synchronize. That is now available, so click that. And it's just showing you all of the things that you just changed, and you're basically just saying, okay, yeah, I'll apply that to all the other images. And it goes through and one by one starts to do that until it gets through the end. And there you go. So you can see as you go through all the images in sequence, they're all having the same color correction applied to them. Pretty cool. Now here's the weird thing. We've done our color correction and we've said we've opened these files, but we actually haven't opened them in Photoshop, and we're not actually going to. We're working in the Adobe RAW filter right now. We've made our color corrections. Now all we have to do is save these images. We don't really need to look at each one in Photoshop because we've already previewed what we want to see here in Bridge and the RAW filter. So to save a lot of time in previewing all those images, you simply come down to save image. Now you see it says save image. You want it to say save images. Right now we only have one image selected. So again, we're going to click Select All. There you go. And now we come down to save images. So make sure it is plural so that you're saving your entire batch. We're going to click that. And really the only thing that you need to mess with here is the destination. You want to choose that processed folder, and that's going to be different for all of your projects. Like I said, I keep one main project folder. These folders go within them. So we're going to just browse to that, hit select folder. That's a different project. Let me find the one we're working on right now. There's my project folder. Open that. There's the 3 folders I showed you at the beginning of the tutorial. All of our source files. And now that we've gone through this process, where we're going to save it is in the processed folder, of course. So open that up, hit select, and just save. And then you'll see down here in the corner, it'll tell you how many files are remaining and what you need to save. And we're going 133, 132, so about 3 to 4 seconds to process each one. So we're going to cut here, and I'll come back just a few minutes after this process is finished. And we're back. So there was a question about why the TIFF format, because you'll notice I skipped over that. It's a default setting when you're saving these files. The reason you want to use TIFF, there are 2 main reasons. One, TIFF is a high quality color image, so it's much a better quality image than, say, a JPEG, so it's not nearly as compressed. The second big reason is that TIFF is an easily recognized format as a sequence. So the software can see a batch of TIFF files all with sequential file names, and it understands it's a sequence. So that's the other reason why you want to always save that in a TIFF file. So we have saved all of our images. You'll notice there is no readout down here in the left-hand corner. So now we have all of our images processed, and let's go look in the folder. So there's our source. That's all the stuff we started with. Now in process, we should see a whole bunch of files, and we do, starting with 2102, and you'll see the numbered sequence here. So excellent. So now we have all of our TIFFs in a sequence in one place, and we're ready to go to After Effects and see what this looks like when you play it back. All right, so let's get into it. Let's launch After Effects. After Effects is one of those pieces of software you will never, ever completely know. I've been using it for 20 years and I'm still scratching the surface, but it is a great tool for time-lapse photography, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So first thing we do is I just close all this stuff, and now we bring in our files. So you want to go File, Import Multiple Files, and this is where it gets kind of weird. So let's go find our files. need to go out to my drive here. Great, now here's all the process files, and we want to put them in name order. Great, 2102, 2103, and so forth. Let's see, we'll click on one of these guys. Click on the first file, and here's the part you have to pay attention to, and just make sure you do it the same way every time. You'll notice when you click that first file, it'll tell you all acceptable files, the format is TIFF, and down here you see TIFF sequence. Make sure you check TIFF sequence. And then it's going to look at this folder as one file. And then you click open. Now you bring it in, and here's the confusing part. After Effects opens this import multiple files dialog once more because it's a way to open multiple files in one fell swoop, if you will, from different places if you wanted to. But we don't really need to do that. Once we have brought in the TIFF sequence, we're kind of done. So you just hit cancel to this and don't worry about it. All right, and now we see that we have our TIFF sequence over here in the left-hand column in our assets. And now we're going to pull that into a composition. So click and drag that right down to our composition button, and you'll see that turn blue. Excellent. So now we have a composition automatically from the photo sequence that we just took. So you notice it's really, really large. So we're going to do Command minus and just get it visible on the screen. Now you'll notice we have a new composition when we drag that down. So now we have another one. So I'm just going to rename this again. Sorry, I didn't mean to confuse you with that. But now let's look at the native dimensions here. So you'll see that this is the 4K image from the raw file. So we're just going to change that to 1080p. And you'll notice that the crop is not the same. So we'll be having to do some cropping as well. Now we'll say OK to this, and you'll see you have handles. So here is our window. That's our 1920 by 1080. Here are the handles for the dimensions of the actual images. So I'm clicking with Option Shift down on the upper left-hand corner and dragging it in. That just keeps the scale proportional. Now I want to blow this up a little bit on my screen. So Command plus, do that a few times. And I want to keep it as wide as possible. And then I'll just find the pleasing composition. I want to get that little pond in there. So cool. All right, so now we've got it in After Effects, and it's down in our composition down here. You'll see that it's almost like layers in Photoshop. There's our sequence. Here's our playhead. And as we move that playhead, you'll see it play. Now, After Effects doesn't play back in real time unless you do a RAM preview. In other words, it's got to run through, display each frame at least once, and then it'll play back in a little smoother motion. Basically, at this point, you've made a decision about cropping. You already know how long it's going to be. And the only reason I do this in After Effects is because it's an easy way to take all of those images and make one time sequence, and we get our first render out. So we get the first piece of video that we're going to work with in later on in this process. So hang on. Now there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do in After Effects. A tremendous amount of special effects, filters and things that you can apply, which we're going to do in just a few minutes. But first you just want to see, and I know when I get back from a shoot I'm dying, I just want to play it back and see what the thing looks like in real time. And the best way to do that, just go straight to a render. So we've done one round of color correction in Photoshop, brought it into After Effects. We've built everything into one file, so it's a sequence now. And really the quickest way to get a good look at it is just do a render. So to do a render in After Effects, you come up to Composition and come down to Add to Render Queue. And you'll notice down here, everything changed. We now have the Render Queue window open. And we have a couple of settings that we need to adjust before we render something out. First thing we're going to do is click on Lossless, and we're going to choose the kind of codec that we want to use to compress this. And we're going to, best for web is H264. It also renders a little faster than some of the other higher quality, but right now we just want to see what this thing looks like, so that's fine. And this has no audio on it, so I always just turn it off, and I'll say OK. And then the next thing to do is make sure it's ending up in the right place. So click on Output To and click on the name of the file, and that's going to let you select where you want it to go. So what we want to do is find this project, and the dog's barking. Sorry. And we want to put this in renders. So this is going to be our first render. So our render completed, and if we look in that render folder, we'll see there's our video file, timelapsePostTutorial.mov. Let's double click that and open it in QuickTime. Now I'll let you know, I got a couple of the files shown here. I'll let you know one thing that is kind of nice to do. You want to watch it over and over again. Easy way to do that is even before you play it, go up to View, come down to Loop. And now hit play, and we'll see what we shot. Cool. The magic of time lapse. So now you've got your very first render, one batch of color correction, go back and do a bunch of stuff to it. But you basically have the file now. Now if we want to do some more interesting things to it, we can go back to After Effects and we'll apply some effects. Hang on. Okay, I want to do just some additional color correction to this, give it a little kind of hazy dream thing going on. There's one I like to use that I actually purchased. It's called Video Copilot Color Vibrance, and you simply find that in that wonderful effects and presets window. There's just so much good stuff in there. Anyway, just click and drag that right onto the image, and you'll see it turn that green, and now we have the effect in our effects controls palette up here. So we just want to start to mess with that color. I'm going to double click where that green tile is, and now it's really kind of cool is you can set the hue. So I'm sure you've seen films where they look bleached out, or there's a particular color harmony that they're trying to achieve. This is one way to do that. So we suddenly like turn this into lush green Irish countryside, possibly. Who knows? But it lets you do some fun things. So you choose the hue that you want to work with, and then use your color picker to find the value and how much you're applying this filter to the image. So if you're trying to go for some fun effects, this is one way to do it. The earth and hell. Just find something kind of pleasing. It's a little oversaturated. Okay, so that's fun. Good enough for a demonstration. So we've applied that. Now we could do that over time if we wanted to. Sorry about that. But we'll just apply it. So now we're going to do our second render. Again, add to render queue. Lossless. Format options, change that to H264. Say OK. Come down to audio control, turn it off. Say OK. Make sure you go into the right spot. Now we are. We have a different file name here, so this render will be Molus Pass 2. Just want to make sure we're getting it in the right spot, and we are. Great. And hit render. Be back in a second. All right, our second render has processed. If we take a look at our first one in preview and our second one, you can definitely see the difference in the color. So excellent. Let's open that up. Now we're in QuickTime. Do View Loop and hit spacebar to play. Give a little stage here. That looks pretty good. So there you go. That's the gist of it. Now there's one more step if we want to add some titles and music to it. Hang on just a minute. I know I forgot something. A couple of real quick things. Back in After Effects, to get back to your composition, you'll notice there are tabs down here. Molus Pass 2 is the one that we just rendered. So you can click there, and you want to save your project, which is different from your composition. A project can be made up of many, many compositions. You want to save the project, and we haven't done that yet. So we're going to do File, Save As, and we'll put this in the same folder. I just put it in the same folder of the other three, and I'm going to call this Mollis Pass, and it will name it Project. So now we can come back to our After Effects after quitting it, and we can continue to manipulate the video. And now comes time for dessert. We get to put the cherry on top, if you will, and we're going to do that in Final Cut Pro 10. So let's launch that. And if you're not familiar with Final Cut Pro, I would do the tutorials. This is not a substitute for that. I'm merely showing you how I use it at the end of my post process. But there's a lot to Final Cut, just as there is to After Effects. So I'm opening it up. It's opening it to the last project that I was working on. However, what we want is a new set of files to work with, and the paradigm that Final Cut uses is you want a new library. Everything stems from the library, so we're going to do File, New Library, and we're going to find the folder that all of our other things are in. Okay, and this is going to be our Mollis Pass library file. We're going to let that create. Every library has events, so we make a new event. I always just let it use the default date, and then every event has a project. So here's our project. We can select it and rename it. Guess what? Mollis Pass. And now I can import media into this project. So File, Import. We're going to go find our project. It's usually the hardest part when you have file structures with so much stuff in it. Time-lapse tutorial, Mollis Morning, renders, and here's the color-corrected one that we made. We're going to import that. It wants to import it into the event, and that's fine. You, like I said, you can make multiple events. We'll just use the default one, import. Now I have it up here in my clips, if you will, and I can click and drag that whole clip. We're going to use the whole thing. This is such a short little piece of video. Normally you put text and music to things that are much longer, but we're going to scale this. Let me get this background task window out of the way. Move that right up here for now. And you can see even while I'm working in the background, it's still importing that media. So it'll let you work with it before it's even completely processed. But it's good to just let it write out and do its thing. Things happen much faster that way with the software. Okay, in Final Cut, it uses a storyline metaphor. So that's what this is called down here. In our case, our one clip here is the entire storyline. We're just going to add some text and a couple of effects to it. One thing I like to do is just typically do a fade in of some kind. So if I come over here to Transitions, open that up, click Dissolves, you'll see Fade to Color and Cross Dissolve. A good one at the beginning is just Fade to Color at the very beginning. And you can see, because it's such a short piece of video, as we scroll through this, it's a pretty big chunk of it. So I'm going to actually shorten the amount of time that fade takes, and I'm going to put one at the end as well and do the same thing. So merely clicking and dragging on the edge lets me control how long that effect takes place. And what I can do, and you'll see the little orange lines coming up, that means that Final Cut is actually rendering these transitions now. So while you can see it on the screen, it's actually rendering the data behind the scenes. Now let's put some text in here. And if we click on the text tool, the text window comes up. And if you click and drag, or just drag over any of these, you'll see the type of title that you can put into the video. I try not to get too fancy with these because they can end up taking more attention. than the actual video takes. So we're going to do something really simple here. We'll just do a blur. And you can drag that where you want that text to start to show. And just like a clip, you can lengthen and shorten it. I'm going to use the magnifying glass tool here just to shorten my entire view of the project because my text is extending beyond the length of the video. That's not good. So I'm just going to click and drag on the edge of that and pull it in. And now if I put my playhead, just like in After Effects we have a playhead, we'll put that playhead here and then click on the text. You'll see here is my text tool. So I'm going to type in the title of this video. And see how it's all fuzzy? That's because it's in the middle of a transition, because this is the one that fades in. There we go. Let's play that back. Put the playhead where I want, hit the space bar. And that's a pretty quick cut, because this piece of video is only 4 seconds long. But you get the idea. So let's make that a little bit longer. Do it again. There we go. Next we'll add some music. Okay, let's add some audio to our spectacular movie here. So before we were looking at transitions in our toolbars, we're going to click on the musical note to look at audio. And you can use this drop down to browse your iTunes library or any folder on your system for that matter. I happen to have some sound effects and music folders in here. I'm going to look in jingles. And I'm looking for something pretty short because this is only 4 seconds. So a nice thing that you can do is when you're browsing music is to browse by time. So if I look at something real short here. And we can preview any of these. A little too hipster, I think. How about Celestial Body? That sounds right. I'm digging that. Are you digging that? Cool, let's add that. So we can just simply click and drag right onto our storyline. Now you'll notice our music is much longer than our video. So we're going to move this around a little bit, and we're going to chop this up. So to cut it, hit B on the keyboard, and you'll notice your cursor turns into a razor blade. We're going to click, and we've cut that clip now. Hit A, go back to Selection Tool, select that clip, and delete. Now we've got a piece of music that lasts the duration of our video. It's going to be a little abrupt at the beginning and end, so we want to fade that music out, same way we faded out the image. And we'll do that by hovering over the middle bar here of the music, and you see those handles come up, left to right. You can click and drag that in, and you'll see the ramp that it causes. That's showing you how that music's going to fade out over time. You can do the same thing at the very beginning. Pull that in, and we're going to back this music up a little bit. And let's see what we got. Drag the playhead back to the beginning, hit play in the preview window. Pretty nice. I think the fade in was a little too quick though, especially now they have this funky groovy music in here. So let's pull that out, make that transition last a little bit longer, and we'll try that again. Excellent. Now all we have to do is render. All right, rendering in Final Cut Pro is a little bit different than After Effects. In Final Cut Pro, it's done through sharing. So we come up to File, down to Share, and you can share to different destinations. So you'll notice I've got a Facebook account up here, Vimeo account, several YouTube accounts. I can actually post from Final Cut Pro to any of these accounts rather than having to go to the website and upload video to it. However, if you just want a master file that you want on your local drive, come to Share and over to Master File. You can leave the settings the way they are. You're not publishing this. If you were to publish it to Facebook, you'd want to put something that was human readable in here and a title that made sense. Since we just want this on our drive, it doesn't really make any difference. So I'm going to hit Next. And this is telling me where I can save this file. So I'm going to call this Mullis Pass, and I'm in the right folder. Mullis Pass Final Audio. Going to save that. And you will see in my background task window, it has started sharing, and this is a really short file. It's not going to take long at all. There we go. And let's play it and see what we think. Good deal. I'm happy with that. Are you? That could be a nice intro for a television show or a commercial. Who knows? Anyway, there we go. Those are basically, I think, about 13 steps that I use. So do what I do. Go out there and shoot. Spend a bunch of hours out there sitting around waiting for your camera to do its thing, and then come back and stay up the rest of the night processing all your stuff so that you can look at things like this. Happy shooting and happy post, everybody. Thank you.